thank you so much for being a part of our lives, for being a part of this church, and being here with us right this minute and right now. We ask a special prayer, God, for the area, and we just ask that you speak to us through him, through his mouth, through your Holy Spirit. We know that he has things prepared for us to pierce our hearts from you, Father, and give us something that we can take away, that we can use this week and through our lives to glorify you first and foremost, and to live out a life that's pleasing to you. So we ask these blessings, Father, in Jesus' name. Amen.
So, good morning, church. Happy to see all of you here, especially our guests. Thanks for coming down and being with us today. Todd and Jana are out of town, as mentioned earlier, traveling. And so Todd asked if I could preach this week and next week. So we'll see how many of you come back next week and how I do today. That's the judge on the preacher there. So it is good to see you. Someone told me this morning, they said, man, preacher, I'm kind of tired today and all. I said, well, what do you want me to do? Are you going to just fall asleep on me? And that's okay. People have told me the best sleep they've ever gotten has been through my sermons. And I'm okay with that because at least I can be helpful. But some of you do know that I get by on, personally, I get by on 4 hours sleep a day. I got to have at least 12 at night. Sorry, if you didn't get that, I'll explain it to you later. Thanks for our text reading today from Galatians. And we're going to be looking at a couple of verses in Galatians this morning. Talking about that a little bit. And today we're going to be talking about burdens. The text was read for us, talking about our burdens that we have and casting them on other people. And I think all of us have burdens from time to time. Maybe you don't have a lot, or maybe you've learned how to deal with burdens, but typically at some point we have things that burden us. And a lot of times we bring those burdens on ourselves. You realize that? Most of the burdens I've ever had in my life, most of the trials that I've ever had, I brought them on myself. And no one to blame but myself. So you can wake up every day and look at the news, look at the newspaper, go online, and it seems like bad things are happening somewhere, right? This new coronavirus. We keep hearing about that, and that's a burden if you let it get to you. But, actually the flu has killed more people than the coronavirus, which the flu's not a good thing, but the coronavirus is kind of away from us. I don't know, 8 or 9 cases here in the United States now, something like that. But nevertheless, it's something to have a concern about. But do you spend your day burdened by that? Or reading anything in the newspaper or online? Most of the time it's bad. They don't tell you the good things that are going on. You hear the bad. So with that in mind, this guy sat down and wrote a little poem. He said, talking about the burdens of life, he said, air is polluted, water is too. Fish that swim in it are not good for you. Fresh fruits and vegetables, delicious you say, don't eat them. They're loaded with pesticide spray. Avoid dairy products, say no to red meat. Cholesterol levels must go and retreat. The rays of the sun will certainly fret you. Stay in the house and radon will get you. If you walk in the woods, you can really get sick. Lyme disease is spread by a pinhead-sized tick. If one thing won't get you, another one will. But don't worry. Be happy because worry can kill. So your lesson today is don't worry, be happy, right? With all the burdens of life, things that are going on, don't worry about it. Much easier said than done. Much easier said than done. There's no proverb, Mexican proverb says there's no home anywhere that doesn't sooner or later have its hush. Basically, every one of us at some point in time will have burdens that seemingly are too heavy to bear. Things that are happening to us that are so difficult, we don't know what we're going to do. You might have had days like that, or maybe even weeks, months, possibly years of things that are burdening you that you have to deal with on a daily basis. Now, I know right now you're saying, man, preacher, you're just bringing me down bad right now because you got me thinking about all my burdens. I'm not trying to do that. Maybe bring you down, but I'll bring you back up. Just hang with me, okay? It gets better. It gets better. Burdens of life. Bible has 3 interesting statements. Well, more than that, but 3 that we're going to look at today. Interesting statements about our burdens. One is found in, actually 2 of them are in Galatians. One was our reading today where it says, bear each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. That sounds good. Bear one another's burdens, and we fulfill the law of Christ. But you know, it's kind of crazy because you'll go on down to verse 5, and it says each one should bear his own burdens. Sounds a little contradictory there, doesn't it? It does. Do you head this way? You can agree with me. It does. It sounds a little contradictory. It really isn't, and we're going to look at that some. But it talks about bearing your own burdens, but yet bearing the burdens of others. The third statement, I'm not going to tell you right now. We'll get to it here in just a few minutes. First of all, let's look at Galatians 6, verse 5, where it talks about bearing our own burdens. You know, there are some burdens that we alone can bear, right? There's some things in our lives that we can't really let another person take from us. Say if it's a sickness or an illness, you can't just give that to someone. Well, I guess you could spread a germ, but you don't want to do that. You know, some people have things that are wrong with them that you can't just take it away. Those people must bear that burden. It can't be taken away. In the Air Force, we have PT tests every year or every 6 months, depending on how you do on them. And you know, we have to do this run and push-ups, set-ups, and all this other stuff. And you know, we can help each other and train each other. We can even pace one another on the run. But the person doing it has to bear that own burden. They have to do it themselves. We can't do it for them. We can train them, encourage them, mentor them, the whole 9 yards. But they can only do it themselves. Some burdens are like that. And yes, PT tests can be a burden. I'll testify to that. Adam? Yes. Amen, right? We don't much care for those. You know, no one can believe in Christ for you. No one can be saved for you. You have to do that. There's some things that you have to do alone or maybe with someone there walking with you or whatever, but nevertheless, there's some things in life that you have to do yourself. There's some things in life that other people can't do for you, some burdens, some things that no matter what, we have to bear them. Jonathan Edwards, preacher from colonial days, wrote in his diary these 2 resolutions. He says, resolve first that every man should do right, whatever it costs. Resolved, secondly, whether any other man does right or not, I will. So help me God. You have to do some things yourself. Even when other people choose not to do the right thing, you must choose to do the right thing, even if you're all alone. Some things we have to do by ourselves. Sometimes we have to take that walk alone. Yeah, I know you'll tell me, well, you know, 23rd Psalm tells me that God is walking with us, and you are correct in that. But seemingly, there have been times in my life where I have felt like I am all alone. Even with a wife who loves me, a God who's there to protect me, family and friends surrounding me, I have felt all alone. And maybe some of you have been down that road as well, to where you feel like you're all by yourself. So we should bear our own burdens. God knows us as individuals. His eyes are upon us. So whether anybody else does right or not, whether anybody else is true to God or not, we have to be. I think the highest contribution that we can offer in our community here in this world is the right kind of a life. Most beautiful portrait we have of Jesus is given in 5 little words in Acts 10:38. He says, He went about doing what? Doing good. He went about doing good. British Prime Minister Gladstone never tired of saying, one example is worth 1,000 arguments. One example is worth 1,000 arguments. Think about that. 10 righteous men would have saved Sodom and Gomorrah. 12 men turned the world right side up. The best contribution that I think we can ever offer is setting the right example. We look back at verse 2 now, bearing one another's burdens. Bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. Burdens oftentimes should be shared. There are those times that we can share our burdens with other people. There are those times that we can bring people into our world. Let me caution you on this, okay? Let me caution you. It is good to share your burdens. It is good to bear others' burdens, okay? Be careful who you share your burdens with. Be careful. Make sure that person loves you and cares for you and is there for you before you share your burdens. The verse immediately preceding the verse we just read says, brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently, but watch yourselves, or you also may be tempted. Galatians 6, verse 1 following there. And he says, bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law. You know, so if a person's caught in a sin, what should we do? Criticize him? Ostracize him? Go after him? Put it on Facebook. How about that? Yeah, Twitter and all these other social media things. Let's really put it out there because we're going to bring this brother back, right? We will shame him into coming back, right? That's what we do. I'm not saying we actually do that, but I have seen that type of approach taken when someone who needs to get their life right, they go astray, and I've seen people break out the shame model. No, we're not to do any of those things. We're not to stone this person. We're not to talk about this person. We should seek to help those about us. People will know if you're genuinely interested in helping them. But even the Scripture says more than that. Not only are we to do our best to restore people who are going wrong, but we are to reach out to help the people around us, whatever their burdens may be. Burdens in life, they're burdens of responsibility, there's sorrow, pain, decisions too difficult to make alone. You know, people all around you every day, they are bearing burdens. And the interesting thing about burdens are a person's burden to you might not seem that big. But to them, it's huge. And when you're helping them, it needs to be huge to you as well. Bearing that burden. Sometimes bearing that burden just simply means talking with them. As a counselor, I've thought so many times, most people that come to see me know what their burdens are, know what their problems are. And secondly, they know how to fix them. Most of the time they do. They just need somebody to talk to. And so I listen a lot. And I've had them say, you know, I feel so much better leaving here today. And usually I haven't really said much at all. All I did was listen. You know, I can't counsel my own family. It's got something funny with that. One day, Rhonda had a particular burden going on in her life. And I said, you know, I'm a pretty good counselor, I think. Break out some of my counseling skills. She was talking to me, and I said, okay, I was listening very patiently as a good husband that I am. And I said, well, sweetie, how does this make you feel? I probably shouldn't have said that. She said, Mr. Coburn, that's always a bad thing. I am your wife. I am not a counselee. I said, yes, ma'am. And I switched back to being a husband. Because in husband mode, you know, I want to fix things. In counselor mode, I listen. So then I switch back, and then she has to say, I don't need you to fix this. I just need you to listen. Please. And it's difficult because I'm a guy. We want to fix things. You bring us a problem, we're going to fix it. Simple as that, ladies. Where was I? Listening. You know, some of you might have watched the movie, Lord of the Rings. And even if you haven't, I'll tell you a little story and you'll understand it. But a very enduring quality of the movie is this friendship, the camaraderie that develops among the various characters. They have hobbits and elves and dwarves and a man. And as they unite to help Frodo reach Mordor, am I saying those correctly? I've never seen the movie either. I thought this was pretty neat. I read the other day. Anyway, they help Frodo reach Mordor to destroy the evil ring which threatened the existence of all mankind. And the journey had been long and dangerous and very difficult, and Frodo and his friend Sam had barely survived the dangers they encountered. And as they approached their goal, they were reaching their physical and emotional limits. They were climbing the mountain. And as they struggled upward toward the cave where the ring must be thrown into the fire, Frodo collapsed, unable to take another step. All of Sam's encouragement was ineffective because Frodo just did not have the strength to go on. Since Frodo was the only one who could carry the ring because of its mysterious power to tempt and overwhelm whoever was wearing it, there was only one thing to do. Sam said, you know, I may not be able to carry the ring, Mr. Frodo, but I can carry you. And he put the exhausted Frodo over his shoulder and carried him the rest of the way to their goal. You know, that's how we as Christians should be to one another. Life's burdens can be so overwhelming. You know, I look at us coming here together today as a group, as you've heard me say, some of you say before, this is group therapy that we have here. A whole bunch of us recovering sinners. And we come here to encourage and build up one another. But you know something? When there are some burdens in your life, you don't feel like coming here and gathering. You rather just stay at home. When this is where you should be. With people who love you and are concerned for you and want to be there for you and take care of you and protect you and all of those things. But life can bring us down sometimes to where we don't feel as though we can take another step. Life is difficult. We lift each other up, make sure no one gets left behind, making sure they don't feel alone and deserted. One more passage I was going to share with you today, besides those two. One I want to share with you today comes from the 55th Psalm. And it says, cast your burden upon the Lord, and He will sustain you. So we talk about bearing our own burdens, right? We have those that only we can bear. We talk about sharing in other people's burdens, those that people can allow us to help them with, whatever that burden might be. But then we're looking here to where we're taught to cast our burdens upon God because He's going to sustain us. In this psalm, The psalmist says, "Oh, that I had the wings of a dove. I'd fly away and be at rest." Burdens here are so heavy, the problems are so awful. I'll just quit, I'll get away, I'll give up, I'll flee, I will not stay any longer. Probably some of us have felt that way before too. If I could only get away from this. What I've noticed in the Air Force is a lot of people come into the military to get away from something at home. They come into the military to get away from drama or heartache or whatever it might be at home. And what they find is that even though they come in and the Air Force might station them 1,000 miles away from home, the burdens are still there. You know, it's difficult to leave those things behind. It's difficult just to walk away from those burdens. They're still there. What do you do with them? So who hasn't felt that way amongst us? When you get away, you still got your burdens, you still got your memory, you still have your personality, you still have yourself. You can't run away from life's burdens. And we shouldn't. We shouldn't. So what do? Where do you go? There's only one place. Cast your burden upon the Lord, He will sustain you. But how will He sustain you? And there's a couple of ways here I think that God sustains us. One, He can take the burden away, right? Who hasn't prayed that before? Lord, take this burden away. I have prayed that prayer so many times. Lord, just take it away. That sounds simple enough for an almighty God, right? Sure. Just take it away. Oftentimes that doesn't happen. Remember, Jesus even prayed this. Lord, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me. Remember that? What God say? He said no. No. Secondly, sometimes we pray, yet the burden remains. What if God doesn't take the burden away? What if God doesn't take the issue, the problem, whatever it is going on in your life? What if God says, no, you got it. You got this. But it maybe comes then with divine reinforcement and helps us to bear our burdens. Maybe He helps us to be victorious over it. Remember, the Apostle Paul had reinforcement. He had a thorn in the flesh of which we don't know what it was, right? There's speculation about his eyesight and other things. More than likely, we'll get to heaven and we'll say, Paul, what was the thorn in your flesh? He said, well, I fell on this plant and I got this thorn in my side. And it irritated me to the day I died. And it was actually a thorn. He said in 2 Corinthians 12:8-9, 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me, but He said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. So Paul, no matter where you go, no matter what is to come, no matter what happens, he says, my grace is sufficient for you. Never again do we see Paul praying for God to take that thorn away. Never again. My grace is sufficient for you. Paul's saying, I think I'd rather have my thorn in the flesh plus God's grace than to be without that thorn and miss that added grace from God. What a wonderful promise we have there. He gives us increased grace. If He doesn't take the burden away when we call Him to take it away, He gives us grace. Whatever your burdens are, cast your burdens upon the Lord, and He will sustain you. Don't bear them alone. Don't bear them alone. Don't fight your battles alone. Church, let me tell you, let me make a personal plea here to you today. If you have burdens, if you have things going on in your life, and you are struggling with those things, we have people here that will be glad to talk with you, work with you, do things for you. I'll gladly do that. We're here for you today. Take Jesus into your plans. Turn your burdens over to Him. And we say that, and I'm not being flippant about that, because I know when I try to turn a burden over to God or over to Jesus, I tend to take it right back. I say, God, you got this. Well, by the way, give it back, because I don't know if you do anything, so let me take it. I got this weird way of thinking.
quite the contrary. From childhood on, her body endured the onslaught of rheumatoid arthritis until she could no longer even get out of bed. Over the years, the affliction took a great toll, leaving her with no choice but basically to stay in bed and try to sleep and rest on soft pillows, and her body developed serious bed sores. And then finally, after all of that, if it wasn't enough, she got cancer. Yet her attitude through all the struggles with pain and confinement may best be seen in one of her poems that has been made into a hymn. The hymn's title is He Giveth More Grace. And she wrote these words. I'll read to you while all of this stuff is going on in her life. He giveth more grace when the burdens grow greater. He sends more strength when the labors increase. To added affliction, he adds his mercy. To multiply trials, he multiplies peace. His love has no limit. His grace has no measure. His power has no boundary known unto men. For out of his infinite riches in Jesus, he giveth and giveth and giveth again. When we have exhausted our store of endurance, when our strength has failed ere the day is half done, when we reach the end of our hoarded resources, our Father's full giving has only begun. His love has no limit. His grace has no measure. His power has no boundary known unto men. For out of his infinite riches in Jesus, he giveth and giveth and giveth again. Church, let me remind you today as we're getting ready to close, some burdens are to be shouldered. Some burdens are to be shared. But all of our burdens need to be shifted to Jesus. Life is very difficult. You might be going through something right now. Life might be hard on you. You have people here who love you, who care for you, who want to be here and help take care of one another. Church, we want to do that. I mean, if it's prayers that you need, we are a praying group of people. We are really a praying group of people. But we want to go further than that. If there's something that you